Hi, I'm Dr. David Purvis. Every day in social media, on Facebook and on YouTube and in the videos that I post, etc., I hear people describing how bad they feel. You know, anxiety is overwhelming, it feels like you're going to die, heart attack, feels like there's nothing you can do. You know, depression is like it's enveloping and there's no way forward, and it genuinely feels helpless and it feels hopeless. And there's often the urgent plea that I want to feel different, that I want to have a different experience. Now, it's very common for people to get stuck in a feeling for a long time and to want to change, and it's very, very common for that feeling of nothing can change for me to be like around, you know, and it's just really difficult to see a way forward. And I want to share why that is, and I also want to share the process that you need to go through to change how you feel. So all psychological problems, panic, anxiety, depression, stress, OCD, everything, they're all called emotional disorders because it's the emotion that we feel that is the problem. We feel anxious, we feel depressed, we feel that we have to do things to stay safe, to remain in control. We feel that we have to feel this way. And we want to change that emotion to something else, to hope, to joy, to happiness, to calm, to peace. The thing is, you can't change an emotion from inside of the emotion. So all psychological problems are a problem of feeling a particular way. We want to change that feeling, but you can't change the feeling if you are captured by the feeling. And when I say captured by the feeling, I mean where you are enveloped by the feeling, where you believe the feeling to be an accurate and valid representation of your reality. So look, in lockdown, many people, well, you know, genuinely locked down for, you know, quite conservatively locked down for a very long period of time. And your brain is quite good at adapting, so, you know, that lockdown experience becomes the new normal. Now, if you have a little bit of a tendency towards being anxious or to worrying, for instance, if you decide to start pushing yourself out, like going back to work or going out a bit more or doing some things which you've been denied for quite a long time, your brain is prone, it's likely to say, okay, this might be threatening. And to prepare you for that threat, it kind of gives you a physiological boost. It kind of gives you a bit of the sensation and even the emotion of anxiety, which is basically fear, okay? Now, if you interpret that physiological boost and that emotional kind of that boost, if you interpret it as, oh my word, it is frightening going out, it is challenging doing this, it is too hard, then you've basically validated your brain's guess. And therefore your brain will go, okay, I was right then, this is frightening, and it will give you more and more of the fear. But if we just sort of step back a little bit and think about it, perhaps what you're doing, right? You're going to the office one day a week. Well, you've been at the office many times before. There's nothing inherent in that office experience or going to the office that actually legitimately is frightening. Therefore, if you feel anxiety about going to the office, you know your brain has overestimated the threat. It kind of guessed, it took a punt, it says, well, this might be frightening. And you went, yeah, it is frightening. So therefore now your brain makes it frightening every time. Maybe you're going to the shops, maybe you're walking to the shops, and you've done that, I don't know, thousands of times. And your brain because I said, well, perhaps it's frightening, you know, so you accepted your brain's guess, perhaps this is frightening, oh gosh, it is, it's very anxiety provoking. Your brain goes, okay, so it is anxiety provoking, okay, so we do want anxiety when we go to the shops. You've validated your brain's guess, but you've actually made going to the shops an anxious experience. Now the thing is going to the shops, legitimately, in the external reality in which you live, is going to the shops something which is genuinely challenging, frightening? Do you need to have the emotion of fear whilst you go to buy potatoes or bread? Well, of course you don't. So if you're prone to anxiety, your brain is prone to overestimating the threatening quality of the things that you do. So it tends to sort of say, well, this might be threatening, and this might be threatening, and this might be threatening. And being prone to anxiety is you're going, yes, you're right, this is threatening. Yes, you're right, this is threatening. Yes, you're right, this is threatening. But is it? Is it threatening driving the car? Is it actually threatening going to the shops? Is it threatening walking around where there are other people? Assuming that you wear a mask or whatever, okay? It's not. So when you're captured by emotions, you're accepting that your brain is giving you an emotion which validly and accurately represents your experience in internal reality. If it's anxiety, it's not accurately and validly representing your experience. Going to the shops is not frightening. Now you might say, well, I'm anxious about going to the shops. Yeah, because you're captured by that emotion. And if you're captured by that emotion, you can't change it. So what we've got to do is we have to bring our kind of prefrontal cortex into play. We have to, in a sense, use our cognitive thinking capacity to say, okay, is going to the shops anxiety provoking? Do I actually need to feel anxious going to the shops? And you've got to go, no. Yeah, but I do feel anxious. Okay, therefore my anxiety is overblown. It's an overestimation of threat. It's not valid, it's not accurate. Now, you will still feel anxious doing it, but you know that your anxiety does not represent reality. It's just a sensation that your brain is giving you. Now, if you do this as an alternative to being captured by it, if you say, okay, I still feel anxious, but I recognize that I'm safe, there's nothing to be anxious about, it's just this, I've done it 100 times, your brain will catch on, your brain will learn that that you do not want that emotion, and it will learn that the emotion of fear, anxiety, worry, whatever, is inappropriate for this particular thing. Now, it might still give it for other things, but so you've got to do the same thing, right? Driving is not anxiety provoking. I feel anxious, but I know that actually driving is perfectly safe. I've done it many hundreds of thousands of times, and it's absolutely fine. Your brain will go, okay, all right, so we don't want to be anxious in this activity. We don't want to be anxious in this activity. We don't want to be anxious. And eventually, your brain will stop giving you anxiety in a particular circumstance or setting. And if you do it enough, it will stop giving you anxiety, just generally. See, just to sort of recap, when you accept that your emotion of anxiety, fear, which is basically the emotion of anxiety, when you accept fear and anxiety as legitimate representations of what's going on in reality, your brain will go, right, okay, every time you do that, you're going to feel anxious. But if you don't want to feel anxious, you say, well, okay, is this actually legitimately an anxiety-provoking situation? Do I need to feel anxious in this? Is there a genuine threat in this circumstance? No. In which case, we make our brain conform to what we want to achieve in our life, as opposed to allowing our brain to give us something just because your brain's given it to you, and it doesn't tell you why it does that, it just gives you stuff. Brain gives it to us, I accept it to be true. So when you accept whatever your brain does as being valid and accurate, you're kind of a hostage to the randomness that your brain engages in. You don't know what it's doing behind the scenes, and it does not tell you why it does stuff. But if you accept everything your brain does, you'll end up in some strange places. But we've got to go with this bit of awareness that we have. We've got to train our brain to give us more of what we want, as opposed to letting the randomness of our brain just direct the course of our life. So, the moral of the tale is, you can't change an emotion from inside the emotion. And therefore, we ask if the emotion is valid and accurate in the circumstances. And if it's not, we hold that in mind. We still feel it, but we hold it in mind and we recognize it as an invalid feeling, not an accurate fact. And if we do that for a little bit of time, your brain will get the idea and it will stop giving you the emotion of anxiety. Because it's really trying to give you what it thinks you want. And if you accept whatever it gives you, well, it's never wrong. But your brain is wrong. So I hope you find this interesting. It's the solution, or it's certainly a substantial solution to being captured by your emotions, and it's the way forward. Please share it with people who are overwhelmed with feeling, because being overwhelmed with feeling, with emotion, it's just going to keep you stuck. And if you just remain stuck within that emotion, there's no way forward. Thanks for taking the time to watch and listen.